Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu wa alhamdulillah. So tonight, man, we're gonna try to do an effective study to where I want to show y'all some things from the Quran, and this is turning a question into a lesson because I am, for the most part, generally catering to the new shahadas. So one of them caught in one of my videos where I said, where I was talking about dragging the lower garments, the pants being below the ankles, and I was like, some people said, it's not, you can't find it in the Quran, and I said, allegedly. So they was like, what do you mean by that? Like, can you find it in the Quran? So I told them, sometimes, man, the Quran, not sometimes, but the Quran is about how it's supposed to be interpreted. So I'm going to answer that question for them, but turn it into a lesson how you can effectively not only study your Quran, but bring it into implementation. See, sometimes we got to stay mindful of this to the best of our ability. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was like a living Quran. He lived the Quran. Okay? So if we say we follow the Sunnah, right, and his companions, they lived the Quran. So with us who say we follow the Sunnah, right, with the understanding of the companions and the righteous ones from the best generations, one thing we have to do is start to try to live the Quran, because that's what they did. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he lived the Quran, right? And like with me and D's, that's something we always say. Hey, what you do from the Quran today? You was you able to live the Quran out today? You know what I'm saying? Is you the prime example of Islam? You know what I'm saying? Or you're a prime example of the dunya, but you Muslim? We ask each other those type of things. You know what I'm saying, in our conversation, trying to keep each other sharp, right? So I'm going to show y'all some effective ways, and inshallah it'll help y'all. And you don't have to have like a whole lot of knowledge. This is very basic. A new Muslim or old Muslim, extremely effective. So I was also asked about, when I was saying about how I studied and who I picked, who I learned from, and all that type of stuff. So the thing for me is, other than when I first got my Quran, right, a youngin', early 90s, you know what I'm saying? I'm still a kid or whatever, but it was an Ahmadiyyan Quran. But what came with it was, because it was Maulana Muhammad Quran, he had a little book that came with it called How to Study the Quran. And I'm going to be honest, I benefited from it because it wasn't Ahmadiyyan stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, so anyway, one thing he emphasized was about the Quran was about how it's supposed to be interpreted. You don't just look at the words and say, okay, it says this. It's how that it was interpreted. That's why the understanding of the people that the Rasul taught is important. Because how is this Quran supposed to be interpreted? They was there when these ayats was revealed. Some of them was the cause of ayats being revealed. So they knew the circumstances better than anybody. And when you were able to stick to that, you won't take a Quran ayat and say, oh man, there's nothing like Allah. That means Allah can't move. You know what I'm saying? And all this stuff that this done expand to where a lot of things about Allah is getting denied because people interpreting that with their own understanding. Okay? So when I learned that from that book, I really read the Quran for a long time. So alhamdulillah, situations came about where somebody advised me, you need some hadiths. You know what I'm saying? You need to start reading hadiths. So I got the summarized version of Sahih Bukhari. The very first day that I got it, in one sitting, other than getting up to use the restroom or getting something to drink or something, I read over half of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, as soon as I opened it up, I read over half of it. The website also had an Indian print of Sahih Bukhari. I couldn't believe it, man. To this day, I wish I would have bought like 3 of them. It was an Islamic bookstore, but they had Sahih Bukhari for $50. $50 because it was an Indian print. So the books had fake leather. The paper, it was like real cheap paper. But it was sufficient. Right now, that set of Bukhari hadiths, it still stands. You know what I'm saying? I gave them to somebody and they gave them to somebody else. But it was only $50. So when I seen that set for $50, I got that. In the midst of me getting halfway through that, I got introduced to tafsirs. And then, so I'm reading hadiths, and then I'm reading tafsirs. Somebody told me I needed a book of fiqh. So I go to the same website and just type in their section of fiqh books. And then I looked at all the books they had, and then I looked at the authors and what was their credentials. So Minhaj al-Muslim, which translated to the way of the Muslim, basically. It's a minhaj. Just like Salafiyah is a minhaj. This is a methodology of the Muslim. So it was fiqh. So the author was of that had more credentials, more scholarly credentials than anybody else I seen on there. He was actually a teacher. At that time, he was a teacher in the Prophet's Masjid. So I said, man, let me get that. And it was a 2-volume set. So it had more in it. So when I got in it and seen what was to it, this is what led me to start figuring out how to study. So I would take 1 year, and I still do it. Just like right now, when Ramadan starts, I got something already planned for what I'm going to do for that whole year. From when Ramadan ends until when Ramadan starts next year. So what I did was, I took 1 year, and my main focal point was Aqidah. Aqidah, the proper way. Real Aqidah, to where I have a real understanding more than just a basic level. Okay? So then after I did that for 1 year, the next year I did Minhaj. Right? Minhaj and Iman booster books, because I didn't have to. It didn't take no whole year to get Minhaj. It really didn't take a whole year to get the Aqidah, but I dedicate myself to a year. It ain't the only thing I do, but it's the main thing I do. So I did the Minhaj and Iman booster books, what some people refer to them. They little books like The Disease in the Heart and Its Cures. Right? The prophetic method of advising and condemning. Little books like that. You know what I'm saying? The tree of Iman. Just little books, 100 pages, 150 Imam Barbahari book. Those. So I spent the whole year on them. Then after that third year after that, I got into comparative fiqh, where comparative fiqh is basically a form of looking at all of the madhabs in a comparative way, instead of just focusing on one and that's it. So I started to deal with comparative fiqh on a basic level. You know what I'm saying? So after I did the comparative fiqh, what did I go to after the comparative fiqh? I think I started dealing with the Arabic. Yeah, the comparative fiqh. Then I went back to the Arabic. I went to the Arabic. And recitation. You know what I'm saying? So then after that, I came back to hadiths, because now my classes. So that's how I did it. I did a little bit of, when I was doing a comparative fiqh, it also had me dealing with Sharia law, which I'm going to show y'all a nice little short book on Sharia law based off of the four madhabs and then other opinions. It's a nice little read. I done gave it away a few times and then the people never did nothing with it, so they gave it back. One second. So this book is called Sharia Law. Real thick book. And it's beneficial, but it ain't like a book you read for entertainment. Matter of fact, I left off something. After I did Minhaj, in the mix of Minhaj, and I did a little bit of fiqh, I did biographies. I left that out. I started doing biographies because I was looking for the Minhaj and the companions. So of course, and I did them in order: Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, and I think Ali got a 2-volume set, Umar got a 2-volume set, and then I did, like I told y'all about the 2-volume books I had called the Shining Stars Around the Prophet Companions. It's like 18 companions, and they just give you a brief story about all of them. You know what I'm saying? And then I also did stuff like on Imams, like Imam Shakani biographies. And I was looking for the Minhaj in them. So then when I winded it up, so it was really Minhaj and biographies. And towards the end, I started to deal with a little bit of fiqh and comparative fiqh. Yeah, that's what it was. So yeah, this Sharia law, it break down a lot of rulings, but it give you the ruling on all four of the madhabs. Like what happened to the you know, like when a man and a wife separate, what actually happened to the kids, who take them. There's some misconceptions out there. So like I said, this ain't really like an entertaining read, but it's very decent. It's a very small general book to help you understand Sharia law. So when I started getting deeper into comparative fiqh, it led me to Sharia law. And I remember I ended up getting this and a couple of other books. I'm going to show y'all a book that'll give you a headache, and then we're going to get to these lessons. Okay, right here, college level. Al-Wadi fi Usul al-Fiqh, right? The clear fundamental principles or clear principles of Islamic jurisprudence. Headache. So it break down all your principles of fiqh, the way the words is. It break down. It's very comparative. Shafi'i. I mean, this book right here. It's been times, man, I wanted to take this book and throw it across the room. Now, with a teacher, of course, you definitely need a teacher with this. The little Minhaj books, you didn't necessarily need a teacher for them, but and like the disease in the hearts and its cures, some of them, those little books you don't necessarily need a teacher for. But like when you start dealing with fiqh and some of those other things, you need a teacher for. So that's what I did. I take a whole year, and my main focus be science, hadith, Aqidah, Minhaj, right? Biographies, and then fiqh, comparative fiqh, which led me to Sharia law. You know what I'm saying? Which I had teachers in. So that's how I study. Then I come back full circle. So what I do is, during the year, I'm reading tafsirs all year long, and then when Ramadan comes, I put the tafsirs down and just read the Quran, right? Sometimes before I went to bed or something, I would read a few ayats. It's not that I never touched the Quran, but all year long I'm reading tafsirs. Then when Ramadan come and I just read my Quran, it's popping in a way like never before. Like before I dealt with tafsirs, and I'm reading all type of different sets of tafsirs, and then I went through all the Jalalain with a scholar. So Jalalain is just one book of tafsir. I went through that with a scholar. Alhamdulillah, man. So that's kind of what I did, man. You know what I'm saying? With I'm gonna show y'all one more set. This beneficial. So this is called Fatwa Islamiyah. So when I was dealing with comparative fiqh and Sharia, I went ahead and got this 8-volume set. My teacher recommended it, right? Fatwa, or Fatwa Islamiyah, right? So like volume 2, it's all about purification and prayer. Very beautiful book. Like, look, I'm going to read y'all something from it. So this right here is all different scholars, and when they was asked questions about different things in the deen, how they answered them. Like this right here. I'm going to give y'all a little jewel that I was going to speak on in prayer. And it might take some of y'all for a loop. Okay? So, placing the hands on the chest after straightening up from bowing. So, after some people come out of ruku, right? You will see some people who come out of ruku, right? So look, when they coming up out of ruku, some of them will takbir, some of them won't. But after they takbir, they'll lay their hands to their side like this. Then you see some who takbir, and then they put their hands back across their chest at the ruku. I'm one of the ones who put my hands on my chest at the ruku. But like I said, I've laid eyes on everything that I do in Salah. It ain't like somebody just told me this is how you do it. Because when you start, especially when you do comparative fiqh, you will see some things as mixtures of this madhab, this and that, and this opinion. But anyway, look what the Sheikh said. So look, the question was, should the worshiper fold his arms on his chest after straightening up from bowing? Because in a certain mosque, we are in disagreement on this point. So the people fighting in the masjid about it, they still fighting in the masjid about it, right? Please deliver the correct ruling for us. May Allah reward you. The authentic hadiths from the messengers of Allah, such as that as Sal bin Sa'd, Walid bin Hujr, and others, prove that it is lawful for the worshipper to place his right hands over his left after straightening up from bowing. So it's lawful, not permissible. So it's saying from authentic hadiths, it's lawful for when you straightening up from bowing to put your hands back across your chest. Not saying you can't do it. Let me be careful, because I don't want to get to arguing with nobody. It's too close for Rajab, the sacred month, for me to have to deal with some foolishness. But listen, right? Straighten up from bowing, whether it be in the standing before bowing or after it. And in some of the narrations, there is evidence that it is better to place them on the chest, right? And this is the action of choice. So let me show y'all where it says placing the right hand over the left after straightening up for bowing, because you do have some people who might put their hands below their navel. Which the majority of the ones I know who put their hands below their navel, they definitely gonna put their hands to their side. They ain't gonna talk big, they ain't gonna do none of that. But that's why they're saying That's why they saying it's best. There's evidence that it's better to place them on the chest, and this is the action of choice, according to the aforementioned authentic hadith. As for lowering the hands, we know of no legal evidence for those who say that. We can't find no legal evidence for it, but we don't say it invalidates prayers. So there's more on it, and then you have scholars who feel this way and this and that. Oh, well, we've looked at this, but anyway. So it has stuff like that. Volume 1, you will see it's about Aqidah, creed. So it go through everything. It go through everything. Janazas, fasting, salat. This right here, Tarbiyyah. Tahara, purification and salat. So this is your wudus, your ghusl. It go through everything from the scholars. So that's why, like, when something pop up, and they be like, oh, the scholars, this. I can go to Fatwa Islamiyah. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, I've been doing this long enough before it was on the internet, so I always had to go to books. So anyway, that's what I did. So for a whole year, Fatwa Islamiyah, Sharia law, more than just this, and through a class. You know what I'm saying? So like I had a teacher, okay? Homework, test, knowledge checked. You know what I'm saying? And then after that, when I started doing Arabic, I started going through all of your books, like your obligatory matters, where they got tests, final exams. There's several books that you can get like that. So for a year, I did them. And one second, let me show y'all this, and then I'm going to get to this lesson, then I'm going to wrap it up. So when I was doing my Minhaj books and my Iman Booster books, this was one of the books I had got. It's called A Treasure of Guidance for the Muslim Striving to Learn a Religion by Sheikh Mukbil bin Hadi. Right? So like, as I flip through it, I can open it to any page in there. You can see how highlighted it is. Like my books, I really read them, man. You see what I'm saying? I can flip through any page and you can see like this close to the end. I really read my books, right? So at the end of this book, right, basically, at the end of this book, it recommend a whole bunch of other books, but there's a website where you actually sign up, you register through the website, and you actually, like, there was real classes and tests and stuff. So al-wajibat, so like you can see right here, al-wajibat, the obligatory matters, and Thalathul Usul, the 3 fundamental principles. So as you can see, that's why I put on there, this showing you classes that you could take. So showing how much the classes was going to take. So like right now, a lot of people who get our Wajibat, now you can get them on like Amazon. Before they was on Amazon and all that, you had to go sign up for the classes to get one. And then you take it through the class on there, and then they'll sign your certificate. Because in the back it's a certificate, and they will reward you with your certificate. So I had to do mine. That's how I found out about them. So when I went and started taking all of these classes through this website, the website might even still be active. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. After I did all my lessons and stuff and dealt with my teachers, I probably ain't been on that website since 2015 or 16 or something like that. So like I say, the people who doing al-wajibat, obligatory matters, I had to get on the website and go through with actual teachers. But like if you got stuck, you could talk to them. That the 3 fundamental principles. But the people who did the books, they had a whole bunch of them. And then wallahi, Um, there was a sister who was in Yemen before the war broke out. She knew the real teacher and used to sit like in the real classes with one of the real teachers, the person who put the books together. You know what I'm saying? So like we used to chop it up, but I was done with them, and we used to chop it up and go back and forth on the lessons. You know what I mean? Real beneficial. And this was a sister, right? She was in Yemen for like 7 years. I learned a whole lot from that sister, man. So alhamdulillah, man. Now let's get to these lessons, man, in the Quran, which I'm going to be using a translation that a lot of people not familiar with. So that's what I did, man. I take a whole year and I benefit. So like right now, my goal for this year is, it's not necessarily learning. Well, this one is, but the year that I'm on now, I wanted to go to sleep, wake up and make tahajjud, reading from my mushaf every single night. You know what I'm saying? Since Ramadan, I missed 3 nights, but the third night I made up. The third time I missed it, I made up. But it wasn't like I didn't get up, I was lazy. It was due to my alarm clock. You know what I'm saying? The 2 times that I missed it, and then the third time. But the third time I went and looked at the hadiths, because I knew, alhamdulillah, that I read hadiths. I knew it was a hadith on it. That third time it happened, I said, let me get in my hadiths and look at this. So I was able to make it up. So alhamdulillah, I'm almost done. I want to finish with a month before Ramadan start, a month to 3 weeks. So I'm really going to have to turn it up during this sacred month, which I have been turning it up. So my next goal, that same time that I do at night, now I'm going to take that from the Quran. Instead of doing it, I'm going to do a little bit of tahajjud, not as long as I've been doing, but I'm going to take that time and I'm going to focus on memorization. So for a year, from one Ramadan to the next Ramadan, at night during the third part of the night, I'm going to focus on memorization, inshallah ta'ala, and touching my Arabic a little bit too, but focusing mainly memorizing the Quran. You know what I'm saying? During the third part of the night, when Allah Azza wa Jal is in the lowest heavens, like I'll do me a few rakats of tahajjud, and then I'm going to memorization. You know what I'm saying? Or I might do some memorization before the rakats. I'll fill it out how I'm doing. But I'm going to do that, inshallah, and may Allah make it easy for me from Ramadan to the next Ramadan. So set yourself a year schedule. The reason why I did a whole year, because it take a lot to stay focused on that goal for one whole year and really dig in it and not slack. And instead of just doing this, reading this book a little bit, reading that, it wasn't the only thing I did. You see what I'm saying? But it was 80% was that, you know, because I still would read a little tafsirs. I deal with hadiths every day. I look at some type of hadith every day, so I still looked at hadiths, but that was my main focus. And then, so like I would do my stuff. One book I would read, because I still got all the mother books of hadith. So 1 month I'll read a book, 1 volume of hadith. The next month I'll read 1 volume from a book of tafsir. Then the next month after that, or I'll do this, 1 volume of tafsir on this subject, like volume 1, and then the next month I'll do volume 1 of Tafsir Sati, then volume 1 of Tafsir Qurtubi. You see what I'm saying? So let me show y'all this thing from Tafsirs. From the Quran. So when you ask me about the question, I got these 3 names up here because in the Quran, so I got Qarun, Firaun, and Haman. These is 3 people that Allah Azza wa Jal tells us that he destroyed in the Quran. So when you see something like that, and like this one right here, I'm going to leave this one up for y'all for some homework. Use your Google, use your Quran, and See what y'all can come up with about a man. So when you see this, if we know that Allah Azza wa Jal destroyed these three people, we want to look at what they did to bring about the destruction of Allah Azza wa Jal. So part of living your Quran out is staying away from what is going to bring about Allah's punishment and destruction upon us. See, one thing you have to understand, when it comes to Aqidah, what's the first book that you go to for Aqidah? Quran al-Kareem, because it tells you what you're supposed to believe. Then when you go to Hadith, it tells you how you're supposed to believe it. So although people point out Aqidah book, this, get this, Aqidah, your best books for Aqidah is tafsirs and hadiths. But it's no shortcut in it. So you do have some scholars who put smaller books together to shortcut you, but those shortcut books is just to give you the general concept of what Aqidah is. But when you deal with tafsirs and hadiths, you can bring it from a concept into implementation. You can start to live your Quran. So you want to look at these lives, and what did they do that made people destroy, that brought about the destruction of Allah? A lot of us know about Fir'aun because we hear so much about him. But we're going to use Surah 28, right? And we're going to start at ayat number 76. Indeed, Qarun was of the people of Moses, but he oppressed them. So, you see something like that, you write on your piece of paper. Look, I'm feeling like I can't even spell that. I'm tripping. Oppressed people. So now, Islamically, what's oppression in Islam? What's oppression? Now, you got to go study what's oppression in Islam. Also, can I oppress myself? Can I oppress myself? So, you want to go figure out in Islam, what's oppressing people in Islam? When you say in Islam, what's oppressing people in a manner that's going to anger Allah and bring about destruction? What exactly is those things? And can I oppress myself? Right? So this is one of the things that Qarun did. He was the people of Moses. They was actually related, right? But he oppressed them. And we had given him treasures. So Allah Azza wa Jal made him rich, and the keys of which will weigh down the band of a strong man. So like the keys to his treasures, or the doors to unlock to these treasures, you know, like how you had these things you could put on your waist to keep your keys from you losing your keys. You could take them, you could put them on your belt buckle loop or whatever. So like where they had the leather bands, the keys were so big, these bands was too big to like hold them, basically, right? They was very big keys to let you know that this is the type of treasures he had, right? Recall when his people said to him, do not exult. Surely Allah does not love those who exult. So, boom. What do we take from that? Boom. Allah don't love those who exalt. I know my head in the way. Allah doesn't love those that exalt. So, what do that mean for us? We don't want to be in the category of those that exalt. So, and I'm doing this to show y'all how to show the new shahadas how to study. Let's go and look, because they use the word exalt in English. Let's look at it so we can get what they want us to get from it instead of using what we think it means. So it says, feel or showing triumphant elation or jubilation. Right? So let's look up jubilation. Let's get a little bit of stronger definition of it. Feeling or expressing great happiness and triumph. So basically, he was very prideful and arrogant. He felt triumphant over the treasures and things that he had, man. And the people was trying to tell him, quit being arrogant, quit being haughty about the things. Because they say, recall when his people said to him, do not exalt. You know what I'm saying? Don't be full of yourself, right? Because Allah does not love those who do that. And seek in whatever Allah has brought you, right? The home which brought you the home of the hereafter, and do not forget your share of the earlier life. Focus on Jannah, right? And do good as Allah has done good to you. And do not seek corruption in the land. Bing. Don't corrupt. So he was an oppressor. He was haughty. He oppressed the people. And when you understand about oppressing yourself, he definitely was oppressing himself. So he oppressed the people. He oppressed himself. He was haughty. He was snotty. He was arrogant. He was full of himself because of his treasure and proud of himself, the way he was able to oppress the people, right? And then he also brought about corruption, right? These are things we want to stay away from, right? So then it says, and do not seek corruption in the land. Indeed, Allah does not like the corrupters. He said, indeed, it was only brought to me on account of all the knowledge that I possess. Allah gave me this stuff because I'm a knowledgeable person. I'm so smart. This is why Allah gave me. Y'all ain't got to try to tell me nothing about what I got going on. I have more knowledge than y'all. That's why I have this stuff and y'all don't. You see what I'm saying? This is wrong. These are characteristics that we don't want to start to possess. Right? So look what else it says. Did he not know that before him Allah had annihilated many generations who were stronger than him and had collected greater riches? So it was people 1,000 times better than him that Allah destroyed. What he feel like he gonna be safe for? He didn't know his deen. See what I'm saying? He from the people of Musa. He's one of Musa's relatives. Okay? Now check this out. And the criminals will not be asked about their misdeeds. Right? And he came out before his people in his splendor. He fresh to death. Right? Those who wanted the earlier life said, basically the dunya, the earthly life, right? So by him coming out in all his splendors, his horses, his vehicles, right? His finest clothes, his ornaments, necklaces, whatever was ornaments at that time, right? You know, like ornaments is things that you put on something like a tree to decorate it. We put on ornaments to decorate ourselves. Earrings, necklaces, bracelets, watches. So whatever it was to adorn himself, right? In all of his splendor. And so when the people seen him like this, they said, if only we possess the likes of what Karun was given, he is indeed very fortunate. Allah has blessed him. But what can we take from this? He has the characteristics of somebody that Allah doesn't love, somebody that Allah doesn't like, and somebody that's worthy of being punished by Allah Azza wa Jal because he's earning it. So you can't be fooled by people who have stuff, but then at the same time, you can't be the one chasing that and putting your deen and acting in accordance on the back burner to have it. When he came out in all his splendor, he's showing off. He wants them to feel some jealousy of what he has. Because then they might fall into wanting to chase it, and then he could dangle that carrot in front of them, see? But let me give y'all some more. Now, what I'm saying to you may sound like it comes from myself, but when you know the Quran ayats about those who want this worldly life, those who do this, don't be fooled or feel a certain way about other people you see that may have more than you in wealth and in children. That stuff is, I'm going to test them with that. And when they fail them tests, I'm going to punish them for it. These is Quran ayats, okay? So what it says is, if only we possess the likes of what Qarun was given, he is indeed very fortunate. But those who were given knowledge said, woe to you. So the real knowledgeable people. But keep in mind, Qarun is throwing out there, Allah gave me all of this stuff because of the knowledge that I have. Okay? But he's related to Musa now. Do Musa and them have that? Do Musa run around like that? So the people of knowledge said, woe to you. The recompense of Allah is better for those who have obtained Iman and have acted righteously. What with Allah is better than all of that? This deen, this way of life, carrying yourself in a specific type of manner, not being oppressor, not corrupting the lands or being corrupt or just being a corrupt person, not being haughty, arrogant, just because you have some stuff. All of this stuff is so when you read this, you take these notes. What you make a list, these are the things that I should do. Because they putting down what's better with Allah. You write down what's better with Allah. Then you write down all of these type of characteristics as well. What to do, what to stay away from. This is how you can read your Quran and abstract from it and start to implement it. But we're using, because I was asked a specific question, and Qarun is the answer to that question, and I'm gonna show y'all where it's at. So, yet none is granted it except the patient ones. So the ones who are able to have sabr is going to be the ones that's going to get this understanding, this knowledge of this deen, because it's going to take a lot of patience to sit down and learn it. It's going to take patience to sit down and answer questions and have your knowledge tested. Okay? It's going to take sabr. You see what I'm saying? It takes patience to dedicate yourself to something for 1 year, 10 years, 20 years. The ones who don't have patience, they too impatient, they're not going to obtain it. This is Quran al-Kareem, right? So listen, right? So, look what Allah says. So we cause the earth to swallow up Karun and his home, all of these possessions that he think is all that. We cause the earth to open up and swallow him up. Then he had no battalion, no army, no helpers, nothing that could support him from Allah, from what Allah was putting on him. Right? And he was not of those who could help himself. You all of that, you know everything, you got all of this stuff. Save yourself from Allah Azza wa Jal. Right? Save yourself from Allah Azza wa Jal. And by the morning, the ones who only yesterday had wished they were in his position were saying, indeed, it is Allah who extends his provision for whomever he wills of his servants, and he restrains it. Had Allah not been gracious to us, he would have caused the earth to swallow us up too. So they was looking up to this guy. Not because of how he was, because he was oppressing them. He was haughty, right? He mistreated people. And then he showed off to make them feel jealous. So he wasn't a good person. They looked up to him because of what he had. And none of it saved him when that belt got on him. When Allah bust that belt out on him, not only because he didn't have an army that could help him, and he couldn't help himself. So when you read your Quran and you look at these type of lessons, you can see what to be and what not to be. This brings your Quran into implementation and work on it every day for a whole year. Doing this leads to taqwa. Because now I'm actually doing the things that I have to be conscious. I have to be have an extreme level of consciousness that Allah is paying extremely close attention to me. Right? Then, when you want that taqwa to increase, you do what? You fast. Because fasting was prescribed so that the people can obtain taqwa. That's living your Quran, baby. So you get you some fasting in. This helps obtain that taqwa. And then the more you go and the more you grow, bi'ithni Allah Ta'ala, the more you will be able to implement your Quran. But if you don't read it, if you don't break it down and abstract from it, if you don't do tadabbur, sit down and do deep reflections on this right here, how you gonna get it? So now to get a deeper understanding, get you some tafsirs on it. Now when you get to the tafsirs, to get a deeper understanding, this is something that I want to read that's going to answer a particular question. Right? So how Karun and his dwelling place was swallowed up by the earth. After telling us about Karun's conceit and pride or haughtiness, right? Him being so exalted, right? After telling us about Karun's conceit and pride in his adornments, his fresh clothes, his fresh horses, his means of travel, his home, his decor, right? And how he was arrogant towards his own people and transgressed against them. That's how he was being oppressive, right? Allah then tell us how he and his dwelling place was swallowed up by the earth. This was also reported in the Sahih by al-Bukhari from Salim, who said that his father told him that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, while a man was dragging his lower garments, Qarun was also one that violated the laws of Isbal. He let his lower garments come below his ankles. Even like if his robes, he would have his robes, this fresh decor, dragging on the ground. Like this stuff don't mean nothing. He was also one of the individuals that had his clothes below his ankles. So that's when I said allegedly. It's not in the Quran, but when you look at the tafsirs and you look at the hadiths about him and what was going on when the earth swallowed him up, it's not written in the Quran, but it's in how the Quran should be interpreted. It's the story of it. Because you have to go to tafsirs and hadiths to abstract this. So just continue it. While a man was dragging his lower garments, he was swallowed up, and he will remain sinking down into the earth until the day of resurrection. So Qarun is going to be falling until the day of resurrection. Him, all these worldly things that he thought was all that, Allah had the earth swallow him up. Now, one way you could look at this like this. Allah might not open the earth up and have us fall through it and swallow us up, but Allah Azza wa Jal can have this dunya swallow us up per se, where you just overwhelmed in debt, you overwhelmed in grief, you overwhelmed in turmoil. There's no peace at home. There's no peace with your friends. There's no peace at work. You might go to the restaurant to order you some food and get into it at the drive-thru window. You know what I'm saying? You might just be overwhelmed with trying to appease and appeal to people. You got to have weave. You got to have makeup. You can't go out and be who you are. You got to put on a facade and act like something that you're not. You being overwhelmed by the dunya. But if you sit down and be honest with yourself, you might display some of the exact same characteristics as Qarun. You understand? But look what else it says. Right? He also recorded something similar from Salim, from Abu Hurairah, from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Ahmed recorded that Abu Sa'id said, the Messenger of Allah said, when a man among the people who came before you went out wearing 2 green garments, walking proudly and arrogantly, Allah commanded the earth to swallow him up, and he will remain sinking down into it until the day of resurrection. This version was recorded only by Ahmed, and its chains of narration is Hassan. Then the tafsir, then he had no group to help him against Allah, nor was he one of those who could save himself. The meaning is his wealth couldn't help him, the people who looked up to him couldn't help him, his servants retinue were of no avail to him. They could not protect him from the wrath and vengeance of Allah, nor could he help himself or save himself. There was no one to help him, neither himself nor anybody else. What can we learn from this, right? Then his people looked at that as a lesson and said, yo, Allah could have easily did that to us. But what you have to keep in mind is the things that you put on the back burner for Allah Azza wa Jal. I'm going to put Allah on the back burner for my wife. I'm going to put Allah on the back burner for my husband. I'm going to put Allah on the back burner for my friends, for these people, for this, that, my job. If Allah decide to bust that belt out, those people you put Allah on the back burner for, what they going to be able to do about it? Those people you want to look up to you and be jealous of your car, your house, your clothes, your decor, right? And then you sit around, oh, well, Allah only bless me because I'm a pious Muslim, because of the knowledge that I obtained throughout my travels and studies. And ain't even got no knowledge. Because you going against everything that the deen tell you supposed to be on. Knowledge is what's implemented, not what's talked about. You understand? That's why they had a statement, knowledge precedes actions. You got to know how to do it before you could do it. Knowledge is what's acted upon, not what's talked about. If all of this was the case of what you saying out your mouth, why that belt on that booty then? You understand? So these are just little lessons and tips how you can bring your Quran from something that you're reading to what you're implementing. Look at what was to Fir'aun. And for y'all, for the new shahadas, y'all look at Haman. What the hadith say, what the Quran say, stories, what the scholars say, whatever you could come up with. This is how you bring your Quran into implementation. You have to do tadabbur, deep reflection on this, man. This ain't no joke, because you have to keep in mind, anything you put on the back burner, you put Allah on the back burner for, if Allah take that belt off, and let me not use terminology like that before somebody jump on here talking about he said Allah got a belt. You know what I'm saying? He basically, if Allah had a belt, then that means you're saying Allah has a waist and that he wear pants because he got to put pants on. You need a belt to hold your pants up. These kiosk illogical crap that they come up with. So now I have to be careful because Rajab is coming up and I don't want to fall into being called this and that because I say that belt come down. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's just how you could do it. And then you don't have to just do it with I mean, there's plenty. That's what these stories and lessons are in there for. You understand? And by abstracting this, we're taking exactly what it was, not adding our own interpretation. You know what I'm saying? So when you tie the hadiths to what happened, the moment when that happened to Qarun, it's made clear that he was on some isbal, that he dragged his clothes below his lower garments went below his ankles, and he also dragged them on the ground. So for those who take it lightly, that was part of the punishment. That was part of the wrong that Qarun was doing. This is why you need tafsirs and hadiths to give you a better understanding of the Quran. That's why I say to people, if you're not going to read tafsirs and you're not going to read hadiths, you're going to be at the mercy of what anybody tells you about it. And then on top of that, if you're not going to learn the Arabic, you know what I'm saying? Or people who have publication companies who publish books, so they warn about other books so that they could promote the books that they sell. You got to be careful. You got to be careful. You know what I'm saying? So this is how you abstract, this is how you deduce, and this is how you can help bring implementation from the Quran. What you do from the Quran today? These. What you gonna do from the Quran tomorrow? And I already know that answer. It's a whole surah called Juma. Y'all know what that means? Daqiq. One moment. Get into your tafsirs, man. Get into your hadiths, man. You know? Get you a full meal. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have tafsirs and you don't have hadiths, get into your Quran, and when you see little things like this, pull from it. Allah doesn't love the ones that do this. Let me write that down. Let me dig into it, even if I have to use Google, because I don't want to be that. You know what I'm saying? Allah loves the ones who do this. How can I avoid oppressing myself? You know what I'm saying? When you violate the laws of Allah Azza wa Jal, guess what you're doing? You're oppressing yourself. How do Allah feel about the oppressors, even for the ones that oppress themselves? See, even if you lie to yourself, you're still a liar. Okay? So, inshallah, man, y'all could take from that. Take from, these are some of the steps of Tarbiyyah that I took to cultivate. Now, see, some people may want to go a different route of studies. Like some people, I'm going to close on this. So, even with the Imam, right? Whatever people field of study was, they advised from it. Okay? So like with the Imam that I was telling you about, Abu Sajid, who was talking about Aqidah, you know, Islam from the ground up. So when he was saying to the people, is marriage a science in the, you know, in Islam? So, he trying to get them to understand something. And how you study. If you're going to deal with Aqidah, get books of Aqidah. Don't just grab this, don't grab that. Okay? So he was like, so if I want to learn something about marriage, where do I go? People really didn't know how to answer that. What books do I turn to? Now, because his degree is in Sharia, and I understand why he answered that, and he is correct. He said you want to go to a book of fiqh. You're going to go to a book of fiqh. Because with you being new, or you don't know how to do certain things on your own, you go to a big book of fiqh, because generally some form of a scholar or a great imam, generally either Imam Malik, Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, or Imam Hanbali. Generally, they're going to have looked at these matters, and then they issued out a ruling for you. So like if you have something like Sharia law, you could go in here to where it has specific thing about marriage, just like alhamdulillah, look at Allah Azza wa Jal. I just cracked it open, and right here 9, it's about marriage. So when you can go in and look through the rulings in a book of fiqh, it's going to have certain delils of this and that, but it's going to show you the opinion from all 4 madhabs. Now me, what am I going to do though? I'm not going to go jump straight to a book of fiqh. I'm going to go to the Quran first. Okay? Then I'm going to look at the tafsirs first. I'm going to look at the tafsirs next. Then sometimes in your tafsirs, I'm going to go to Ibn Kathir first, because Ibn Kathir will point out hadiths and things that go with this. Now I'm going to go to the book of hadiths and not only look at that hadith, I'm going to look at that whole entire section on the book of hadiths. Then I'm going to look at it from that and look at it and find the cure. Then I'm going to turn to some of your fiqh books third. That way is going to help me check that I grasp the right understanding about it. Is it in agreements with one of these madhabs? That's what I'm going to do. You see what I'm saying? Because sometimes it's not one size fit all. So sometimes more about the circumstances had to come out. See, sometimes fiqh ruling, people take them like it's a one size fit all. But and this is in my opinion, this is why you need scholars or the people who know how to go dig into it and can look at it and say, okay, although this fiqh ruling this and that, your circumstances is a little different. You understand? It's not always a one size fit all. But that's just what I'm going to do, because I like to do that. Then I might go dig into like Bulugh al-Maram, which is hadiths about Daki. So you have Bulugh al-Maram, which alhamdulillah, I've taught this whole book, you know what I'm saying? Not saying that from a bragging standpoint. When I say that, I'm not saying that to elevate myself or this and that, but for the new shahadas to get some type of grasp, when the time comes, we'll be able to deal with this pretty decently. Inshallah. Not saying I can give you the best, not saying there's nobody else out there that can give you a better understanding. Like me and whoever I talk to, we the only ones. You can't get a better understanding from anybody else. I'm definitely not saying that. But Bulugh al-Maram is, the haram and halal and the hadiths on these certain type of things. So then I might go look into Bulugh al-Maram for a quick search. You see what I'm saying? Fatwa Islamiyah. To look at what some of the scholars said about it specifically. You see what I'm saying? So that's the route I'm going to go first. But if somebody asks me just like him, and I'm in a class, just like, wallahi, people who actually sat in the room with me and seen me do a real class, it's not like this how I do on YouTube. I do use a whiteboard, but it's a little bit different. Okay? It's definitely a little different. Because I know exactly, on YouTube, you really don't know exactly who's listening, what their intentions is, so you move a little different. So I can't really do it like people in front of me. But if I was in front of some people and I know like they knew and I can see that, that's what I'm going to say to them too. If you want to know something about marriage, go look into the book of fiqh. But I'm going to also say, in my opinion, go to Shafi'i and Hanbali fiqh first. Because they extremely strong in hadith. You know what I'm saying? They're extremely strong in hadith. But that's just my opinion. But look at all four. Don't just go at the very first one you see. Because one might, I ain't going to continue to go into that, man. Because I got to do what I got to do in this video too long. So inshallah, man, people could benefit from me sitting up here babbling, man. And just trying to be helpful, man. You know what I'm saying? Really trying to help. Like I say, I'm really more about implementation and trying to stomp down some of the corruption that goes on. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been around a very long time. I've been corrupted. And I'm going to close on this, man. And because I understand people. When I first started to take my deen serious, I always thought I was serious. But I realized how much I didn't understand. So I was in a college town. There was no Muslims. There was no masjid. They had, at the college, they had an area where they used to let them have Jumu'ah and stuff, right? But when 9/11 happened, they shut it down. So, but I had never been in a masjid in my life at this point. Okay? I had went to some, but they was closed. So I've never been in a masjid, never interacted. So I'm seeing foreign Muslims, because I'm in college, I'm seeing them in school, salaming them, but they wouldn't salam me back. So I got that experience before I went in a masjid. But I ain't care. I was just like, oh, okay, cool, alhamdulillah. So there's no masjid, there's no nothing. So me reading Sahih Bukhari and all that, I'm getting myself together. So now that I got to a point where I'm so serious, I'm going to leave a college town and move to a city where there is a masjid. One city invited me and my family. They wanted to take us out to eat. They actually had a welcoming committee. We're going to invite y'all. We're going to take y'all out to eat. You, your wife, your children. You know what I'm saying? We got a sister to put with your wife. We got a brother to put with you. And so I said, okay. And we're going to help you move into the city. Like, we're going to be here and guide you. But my mother and my grandmother now lived in this city. So I went down there to the masjid up there. Me and my wife at the time, we went to the masjid down there. But we was moving and shaking. So, I seen some people going in, not to speak on it, gave them some money, put that in a box for me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to come back. They was the one who ended up giving us the number for the people to contact. You know what I'm saying? And this was also in a different city from where we lived, right? So then I came down here to visit my mother. And at the corner of my mother's house was one of the Muslims that I grew up with. You know what I'm saying? Like, as soon as I pull up, he's walking up on the porch. So I'm talking to him. Man, I'm going to go to the masjid. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go check it out, what time they open. So these things played a role in me coming here. And, my mother getting older. My grandparents was getting older. They both done passed. And they needed somebody to be around to help them with stuff, right? My parents. And so I said, cool. And then I know some of the people here, I grew up with some of them. Let me go ahead, and I decided to move here. Where I can relate to people is my deen was straight until I walked through the doors of that masjid. Never in my mind would I think that I would walk in a masjid that's going to confuse me. Alhamdulillah, it didn't confuse me, because by the time I stepped foot in this masjid and really become a member, only got one volume of Sahih Bukhari left. And I'm in like volume 2 or 3 of Tafsir Ibn Kathir, and I'm on the second volume of Minhaj al-Muslim. So when I walk through these doors, everything is contradicting what I done read in hadith, but I'm sitting up saying, I ain't never been a member of the masjid before, so maybe this is just some masjid etiquette that I'm not aware of. Nah. They was just, then I started to learn, okay. And that's, like when I tell the story, after sitting up in around them for a few months, I said, let me humble myself and just go relearn Islam all the way over again from the very beginning, starting with the Shahada, from the ground up. And that's what I did. Okay? And sometimes, man, I'm going to be quiet and get off of here, y'all. But I'm going to be honest with y'all, man. I have a form of survivor's remorse. Because I interacted with this community and they turned down every opportunity to educate themselves. Books, classes. I wasn't just trying to learn and be their teacher. I didn't even want to teach them. Come to these classes. Look, I even pay for some classes for y'all. And right now, we talking about real strongly from 2009 to right now. Seeing them make me want to shed tears. Seeing them make me want to shed tears Islamically. So it's like survivor's remorse. Not only did they not grow, they became worse. They believe in Egyptology now. They believe Allah live in us. Not all of them, and then, like, it's just sad, man. Don't even know the Al-Fatiha no more. It's crazy, man. And, like, something that's heartbreaking to me, man. This person get this building. And you got these Muslim kids. And, one thing that made me come on board, I got to say this because this is a recent situation. So the way that this building is, it got these rooms in the back, right? These rooms got mini kitchens in them. They basically little efficiencies. So he was like, yeah, with the kids, the Muslim kids, they 17, 18, they troubled kids. If they get kicked out of the house or they become homeless, they ain't got nowhere to go. We got these rooms set up in the back. Some of them had the beds, like the beds just needed to be put together. There's kitchen, the program's supposed to provide food for them. Yeah, man, these kids can live. They could come stay here to get themselves together. And y'all in this building for free. Y'all gave this sales pitch to some people. And so they gave y'all all of this money to pay the bill, get food, pay a salary, get these hustles together to feed so these kids can make money. And if they don't have nowhere to live, they can live in the building. We even took a whole section of it and made a masjid in there. I see one of them, and they ain't got nowhere to live. Hey, man, you ain't holler at man. Y'all, why you ain't staying in the building, man? There's rooms in there. You know what he said? Man, you believe that, man? You really believe they was gonna do that? You know, they'd do some little funny stuff like why they actually at work and we ain't got nowhere to go. Yeah, we could go back there and lay down this and that. But like if they leave and go home, we gotta leave. That was just a sell pitch to get money so they can get that money. But then I look at him when he got a situation going on where he working, he really cool. He moved in there. But these Muslim kids who the program and the building is for out on the streets, like it was a time you wouldn't even have considered being that type of person, man. So it's like survivor's remorse seeing what they became, man. I don't even know how to be since 2017. I don't even know how to be around them no more. I don't even know how to talk and have conversations with them. Man, let me get out of here, man. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, man. May Allah guide us all to that which is correct and aid us and assist us, man, to stand firm on Sirat al-Mustaqim and do what we got to do, man. Assalamu alaikum.